Hey there, everybody. Welcome to the Showing Up to Life podcast and YouTube channel. Art Burns here on a Sunday early afternoon. I'm not sure when you're listening to this, but I'm recording it on a Sunday afternoon, which is the end of my week, as you all probably remember me saying, which means that I got that like Friday vibe kind of thing going. But, you know, the Friday vibe can mean a couple of different things, can't it? Right? So, trigger warning, if you will. I'm going to tell you a little bit of a personal story this morning that kind of happened that leads to this understanding that, you know, the Friday vibe can be at once like a really exciting, like, oh yeah, you know, weekend, let's do it, let's go to the barbecues, let's have some fun. But it can also be like, wow, it's tired at the end of the week, right? And so, and the reason I bring this up, right, is because everything that happens to us happens in cycles, right? And the weekly cycle is the way that our body kind of understands what's happening, right? It's not, the weekly cycle obviously is real. Most of us work 5 days a week and, however many hours a day. And we then get a couple days off. Now, a lot of times like me, I used to work through the weekends all the time, right? So it varies for everybody, but whatever it is that you do, even if you work 2 or 3 jobs, your body has a cyclical understanding of what that feels like, right? It senses this passage of what we call the passage of time, which is really just the changing of the situation, right? But that's a little, we'll get into that at a different time. No pun intended. So the thing is, though, right, that when we can deepen our awareness, right, of partially of our cycles, right, including the awareness of our cycles, I should say, right. So when we can sort of, again, now let me be very clear here, real quick, okay. The cycle is something that our body knows, not our mind knows. Right. Yes, we do have a concept of like, okay, it's the weekend, here we go. Right. But our mind, our brain, right, if you will, the functioning part of our brain, the executive functioning, the intentional part of our brain can say, okay, well, I have to work this weekend, which is not normal. Right. But I can do that. Right. Like I can override the sensation of my body, which is understanding and feeling the approaching of a weekend. Right. And so it's important to understand that this cycle thing happening is not something that you're kind of technically not really involved with, right? In terms of your conscious awareness, it's not, that's not where this thing happens, right? So in other words, it's something that your body knows that your mind doesn't really know, which is habit too, right? And that's why habit is based on cycles as well, right? Habits are based on the cues that make you think of doing that thing that gets you that reward, right? So that is like smoking. Like, when I used to smoke cigarettes, every time you ate, after eating, that was part of the cycle of eating, was to have a cigarette, right? Now, of course, there's lots and lots of cycles that we're going through all the time, right? We're going through cycles of, what they call the circadian rhythm, right? Which is just, basically the universal day and night cycle, right? This is something that every cellular creature on Earth experiences. Every plant, every animal, everything in between, every fungus, everything experiences a circadian rhythm, in the sense that, or what that means is that their cells, every cell that makes them up goes to sleep at night, basically. I mean, not really goes to sleep, but they have a cyclical thing. They know, it's like an on and an off, or an awake and an asleep. An active, it's a rest. As you know, I'm a big plant fan. These clippings are going out tomorrow, by the way, and you know who's getting them. And I'll make an announcement after. But I have lots of plants in my house, and plants do the most amazing things at night. There's several plants I have that every night they do this. They perk up, right? There's actually been studies recently of trees, right? Like trees are moving their limbs very slightly. You can't see it, but they're moving it so that they're pumping the water and the nutrients through the system of their trunk. That's a recent discovery that somebody came up with. That, I mean, I don't know if it's been, peer reviewed and all that kind of stuff, but the point is that we're all experiencing all kinds of cycles all the time, right? Now, why is that important? It's important because these cycles, even if we try to override them, right? Just because I say I'm going to work all weekend doesn't mean that my mind and brain and body don't need the rest of the weekend, right? And it doesn't mean that I'm not going to feel the effects of the fatigue, the effects of the results of not getting that rest, right? My body is still going to experience that. I'm just telling my mind is just telling the world that it's okay that my body experiences that, right? But the body still experiences that. Now, why is that important? Because when the body experiences anything, it is going to directly influence the way that your brain, the way that your brain produces neurotransmitters and the whole, neurochemistry of everything, which then informs the emotions, which then usually increase the feeling that you're feeling, right? Because that's the way it works, right? And then you're just stuck in this endless cycle, right? And so why is that important? That's important because that's our life, right? That becomes our personality. That becomes the person we are to the people who we care about, to our jobs, to our neighbors, to our families. This is how we show up to the world. And so, not that there's anything wrong with however you're showing up to the world. There's not, right? And that's the point in the end, right? I'm going to get to that now. But the idea is, though, that when we can acknowledge that much of the way that we're feeling at any given moment is all a result of what is happening around and inside of us, right? And the reason why that's important is because then we can surf with it, right? I talked about it the other day, the whole Jon Kabat-Zinn quote. You can't control the waves, right? You can't control how you feel. You can't control all of that. It's beyond your control unless you're living in a cave somewhere, right? But even then, there's going to be things that impact your physiology, that impact this whole process, right? And so it is when we gain the self-awareness of this, and we allow ourselves to sit with these feelings and the sensations and the emotions and the thoughts, we allow ourselves to be with it, that's when we can now see it for what it really is, okay? But now here's a really, really important part. And this is something, I don't know if I mentioned this, I don't think I mentioned this here, but this came up with a client the other day, and this really factors into what's happened to me today. I guess I don't know if I'm really going to have time for this personal story, but essentially it's been a rough morning with me. But anyway, sorry, let me get back on track. I totally lost my train of thought. Isn't that funny? So let me tell the personal story. So when I got it. I'm sorry. This happened with a client the other day, okay, where we were talking, and the notion of awareness, right? The notion of self-awareness, right? As I talk about here a lot, especially lately, and this is partially because, and this ties into the personal story this morning, is I'm going through a very intense program of sort of uncovering and reconnecting to my own childhood trauma, right? And it's made me extraordinarily sensitive, and it's made me very, let's call it delicate. I'm on the verge, like I'm on the edge all the time, right? And so it's a constant awareness of seeing, like, okay, here I am. I'm approaching that edge. I gotta bring myself back. Otherwise, I'm gonna blow up at somebody. I'm gonna say something. I'm gonna snap at somebody. I'm gonna get upset, and it's gonna impact everything that's happening around me. And then that's all gonna come back to me and create more of a difficulty, right? So the deeper my self-awareness comes or gets, the more I'm able to see those things. And the more I'm able to see them again from like out here, at arm's distance, so that I can then do something about it out here, right? Just like, just like driving. You don't want to wait till the last possible second to turn out of the way of something, right? If you're a quarter mile away, you can just like ease your car over. It's no big deal, right? You get maybe a quarter mile is a little exaggerated, but 100 feet, right? You don't like wait until the last second and then turn. You gradually do it, right? Because you can see, you are aware of what is coming up. You're able to respond to it in a controlled way, right? So the deeper that self-awareness comes, that's the more awareness you have of that thing coming up, that cone in the road that you have to turn around, right? But here's the thing, and this is what came up in this client meeting the other day, is that there's a wall to our self-awareness, right? There's a place in our self-awareness that we're maybe, no, we don't want to go there. We're afraid. We're ashamed. We're embarrassed. We're confused, right? And that's a place in us that we say, no, I'm not going to go there. I'm going to go up to this edge, but no further than that. But the thing is that it's past that edge. It's in that shadowy thing that you don't want to look at. That's where the source of the suffering is. Right? And so the way in which we can move past that edge, the way that we can go into that dark, scary, shadowy place is through self-compassion. Okay? And so this means a great number of things, right? One of the things that it means is that we honor the fact that we're scared. We honor the fact that this is really difficult for us. We also honor the fact that everybody has a shadow in them. Everybody has something that in themselves that they don't want you to see. Everybody. Maybe not the Dalai Lama. Maybe. Maybe Thich Nhat Hanh. Maybe. Right? Maybe. And these are people who have done, probably 60,000 hours of practice on this stuff, right? So we cannot compare ourselves to them, right? And that's important, right? Because then when something like, I got a couple minutes left in this segment, so I'll tell you the story from this morning, right? Because when we're in that cyclical place, and when we understand we're in that cyclical place, right? When we understand that, okay, I'm going through this whole thing. I've been working on this trauma program. I've been really digging into myself, so I know that I'm always this close, right? And it's a cyclical thing, right? And I got the next session is coming up day after tomorrow, so my body is preparing for this thing to happen, right? Now, I don't necessarily know that as I'm waking up. I got lots going on, but when I wake up this morning, not knowing right away that that's where I already was. Now something, my wife says something that kind of, tweaks a little nerve in me, right? The way that only our spouses and children and everybody can. And then my daughter does one just after that. And next thing I know, I'm feeling my body become like all kinds of angry. It is the self-compassion that allows me to say, whoa, wait a minute, buddy, what's happening here? In the past, it would be either reacting to that anger and lashing out at everybody, or it would be, oh my gosh, I'm so ashamed of how I'm acting and how I'm just ruining everybody else's day. That's the wall. That prevents me from seeing that it was part of this whole physical thing that's going on, that I'm in this fragile place, and these couple of things that happened, and my needs are not quite being met today, and I see the reason why this happened now. I see the source of my suffering now. But I'm only able to see that because I tell myself, hey, buddy, I'm here to help you. I'm with you in this. We're here together. And you know what? We're not alone in this. Everybody you can imagine, even the two people this morning who triggered you, you can believe that they are going through difficult things as well. Maybe not right now, maybe tomorrow, maybe yesterday, maybe last week, maybe next month. But they are going to go through problems the same way you're going through problems now. So it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. And so instead, we can sit with this. We can be courageous because we know that it's not a self-identified thing. It is not a reflection of who I am that I was triggered in this way. It is merely part of a physical cycle that is happening in my body. It's just the way the energy is moving through my body today. And therefore, I have the option now to simply step back, let my body do what it's going to do. And right now, folks, I mean, seriously, I was not even going to, and I know I'm late on this segment, so it's a wild card today, but I wasn't even going to record this today. I mean, I'm feeling so exhausted. I mean, maybe you can tell, I mean, my energy is just, I'm shot because of all I feel like I ran a marathon. And it wasn't even that bad, right? Like, I mean, it's been much worse in the past. But again, it allows me to see this tenderness that I'm feeling right now, right? That my body is tender, my body is sore, my body's vulnerable. That's not my fault, right? None of this is anything that I created. I did not fill out a form before I was born saying, yeah, when I'm 52 years old, I want to go through this, wild process of pain and suffering every day. I didn't say that. Nobody told me that was, nobody gave me an option of that or not that, right? This is my life. This is who I am. This is the culmination of everything I've experienced in my life has resulted in this present moment. And because I'm self-compassionate, I can accept that. So I hope that you too can practice self-compassion. I hope that you can hold yourself in this loving support, in this loving understanding, because that's what the self-awareness is, right? It's got to have that love in it. It's got to have that compassionate view, right? Like a grandma, right? Grandma knows you get up to naughty stuff all the time, but she loves you anyway, right? She accepts you. Even when you broke the thing, she still accepts you because she's your grandma. So be your own grandma and embrace yourself because you deserve it. We all do. You deserve compassion just because you're alive. You don't have to do anything to earn it. And that's something else we confuse a lot. So after you watch this video, even in between these two segments, pause for a moment and give yourself some compassion. Do me that favor, will you? Please? All right, everybody. On to the next segment. See you in a minute. Welcome back, everybody, for segment number 2 of Sunday, September 19th, I believe it is. I had to take a couple of breaths. I started to tear up there at the end of that last segment. I don't know if you noticed that, but that's how much I feel. That's how important it is for me that you feel some love for yourself. Y'all are my tribe, and it matters to me. It really does. I think about you all the time. I really do. Your names, I have, it's like, I don't know you necessarily. Some of you I do. Many of you I don't. But that doesn't mean that I don't think about you all the time. And it doesn't mean I don't love you, because I do. Not because you're a listener. Not because you watch my videos. Not because you're on my email list. I love you because you're you. And even though I don't know who you are, whatever you are, I love you because you're you. And I want you to be the most you can possibly be. Because that's where the magic happens. When we become really ourselves. And again, just like I said in the last segment, this does not happen without a measure of compassion for ourselves. It does not happen without a measure of compassion for ourselves. Let me say it once again. This does not happen without a measure of compassion for ourselves. So So please, I hope that you paused in the last segment, after the last segment, and offered yourself that compassion. I hope you did that. And if you didn't, pause now and just do it. Please, just do it. Just for a minute, right? Just acknowledge that, you know what, life gets hard. And acknowledge that you were never supposed to be perfect. Nobody ever expected you to be perfect. And if it seemed like they did, and they were miscommunicating to you and you were misunderstanding them, and that was not your fault. It wasn't their fault either. We're all, as Ram Dass says, we're all just walking each other home. So in the last segment, we talked about how physical, mostly I talked about, how the cycles of our lives, right? From the circadian rhythm to the cycles of, certainly, like it's a very obvious thing in the female of our species, but male people go through a monthly cycle too. You really do. And you can track it too. We all do. The universe does. Everything goes through a cycle, the cycle of the seasons, the cycle of day and night. And then there's the constructed cycles that we go through, the 5-day work week, sometimes the 7-day work week, the 2-3 job work week. Right? We create cycles for ourselves. We also become responsible for other people's cycles, right? When we have a baby, the cycle of eating and pooping for a baby is a lot faster than the cycle of eating and pooping for adults, So it's like every couple of hours you're on it. If we collect plants, we see the cycle of the plants, right? So again, I don't want to go through this all again. I apologize for that. But the point is that all of these cycles impact our physical experience. Like it impacts the state of our body, right? And because it impacts the state of our body, it therefore impacts the state of our brain, right? Because the brain is part of the body. And the brain, though, produces these things called emotions. And again, I went through this already, right? So now the idea, though, is I want to talk about other things that might cause familiar sensations to you and why it's important. So for me, in my life, anger has always been a thing. In fact, I just journaled after I went through my difficult morning today. I just did some journaling. And just to write about my feelings, just to work it out. And it feels a lot better. Believe me, after I do that, it feels a lot better. Like, a lot better. I just feel like I'm able to process the emotions. My body's able to let it go. And that's, I think, why I feel so tired, But believe me, I'll take tired over tense and headachy, right? So we have control over a lot of this is the point, right? But the real point is, though, that when we're pardon me again, I just missed my my step again. I'm sorry. Gosh, it really doesn't happen, I guess. But again, this is all part of what is happening in my body right now, And so anyway, what I was getting to is the fact that there are a lot of things that will impact the way our bodies feel, right? Oh, that's what it was, right? So for me, I'm so sorry, folks. For me, the familiar emotion for me for all of my life, and truly, I wrote in my journal that I remember being my daughter's age. She's 12, and I remember being around that age when I realized that I am way too angry too often. Like I knew it at that time that anger was a problem for me. And it didn't stop being a problem for another 30-something years, So my body has a lot of familiarity with the feeling of being angry, right? And because I have that, if I get that feeling, I have angry thoughts. The angry thoughts create angry emotions. The angry emotions create that same sensation in my body, create angry thoughts, angry emotions, bop, 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 over and over and over and over. 32 years worth. Seriously. And then it becomes part of your personality, right? About 15 years ago, I had somebody working for me who named a drink I mean, the audacity. this this girl, she was having a really bad day, and so I was just guiding her, but yeah, I come off as angry because that's my go-to. So she named an espresso drink the Angry Art. And she's telling all the other words like, "Hey, look at this drink I just made. It's called the Angry Art. I put like cayenne pepper in it or something." She wound up quitting. I didn't even have to let her go. But anyway, that's how much it was for me, right? So now here's what I want you to understand, right? Another thing that has always been very true for me is that I've always had a very high caffeine intake level, right? I've always drank a lot of coffee. Remember, like 10 years ago or so, yeah, around 10 years ago, I was seeing an acupuncturist, and she, had me fill out that form of how many cups of coffee you drink. I said 10 plus. And she was really like, 10? 10? She couldn't believe it. And that was on like a regular day. I mean, there were days, like if I didn't get a lot of sleep last night, I might be drinking coffee until like 10 o'clock at night. And of course, that was terrible for me, and it wreaked havoc on my sleep and the whole thing. It was awful, 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 right? And I've cut down my caffeine quite a bit now because I realized how terrible it was. And of course, I'm surprised that I had high blood pressure all the time too, but I've reformed, over the last 10 years. I haven't had coffee in like 4 years now, I think. And I don't miss it at all. I drink green tea that has like 9 or 15. Those are the two ones that I have that have like maybe 15 milligrams of caffeine in it, versus 100 for coffee, right? Like that's the difference now. And what's enabled me now to understand, I can now feel the impact of the caffeine, right? And this is coming back to the original point. So I'm sorry for such a long walk for a little sandwich here, but the fact is that I realize now that when I cross that threshold in the caffeine, right, if I have just a little bit too much, I get this feeling in my body that is almost exactly the same as the feeling I get when I'm angry and stressed and everything else, right? But it's that tightness, that ragey tightness that I feel in my body. That's what I get when I have too much caffeine, right? So if there's a day where I didn't get as much sleep as I needed the night before, and but yet I have to get to work, I have to record videos, I got to do the whole thing, and I have a couple of extra cups of green tea, maybe I have an even cup of black tea for that extra, 70 grams or 70 milligrams of caffeine, and I hit myself a little hard just to get my body going because I need the energy. Well, I'm also starting to feel that anger. And my body doesn't know or the brain in my body doesn't know the difference, that doesn't realize that this is just because of a couple of extra cups of coffee or caffeine or tea rather. My brain doesn't understand that, right? All it knows is that I'm revved up, and so it must be angry at something. So let's feed that. Let's give it some more. So here's an assignment for all of you, okay? I want you to to pay attention to all the different things that you consume, right? But not even just what you consume, because the thing is that it also happens like, if I'm reading political posts on Facebook, I get that same feeling. And then it makes me think angry thoughts. And then it makes me think of like the things that, the things that my wife isn't doing, that make me annoyed. And then, I think of the things that my kids keep in their messy rooms. And, and that's what happens. And I get into this, I'm ready to the old times, right? Like back in the day, that would have just been an explosion. And that's the thing, right? These explosions are happening all the time. So I'm encouraging you, I'm assigning you even, to pay attention to your physical sensation this week as often as you can. Like literally, if you can do moment by moment all day long, just noticing what your body is feeling, right? And try to make connections then with, okay, I didn't get a lot of sleep today. I feel that in my body. That's what this feels like. Now, I can't tell you what that feels like because that feeling is yours. It's one of the most subjective things in the universe, is how our felt experience of the world, of our lifespan. Right? So you don't know what I feel, I don't know what you feel. But you know what you feel. That's what matters. So understand, this is what 3 less hours of sleep last night feels like. This is what not eating enough feels like. This is what eating too much feels like. This is what thirst feels like. This is what caffeine feels like. This is what wine feels like. Sugar, salt, starch, pasta, whatever. It can go endless, but you don't have to keep going deeper and deeper. Just bring awareness to it, right? And then you're going to start finding those connections, right? Because maybe it is anger and caffeine for you. Maybe I've already solved your problem, but maybe it's not. Maybe there's some other thing that's happening for you. Let's find that connection, because it's very possible, perhaps even likely, that you are contributing to that feeling through the lifestyle choices that you're making, which again is not your fault. You didn't know, and it's okay, and be self-compassionate towards it, and then we can fix it. It's so easy to fix. It's so easy to drink a little less caffeine. It's so easy to get a little more sleep. It really is. I know it seems hard. I mean, okay, I say it's easy, that's only to everybody who doesn't have a child who's like less than a year and a half old, okay? So everyone else gets a free pass on that one, you know. But that's also true, like anybody who's starting a business out there, anybody who's working a second or a third job, anybody who's got a family member who's ill, anybody who's going through difficulty. It's okay not to have enough sleep, and it's okay not to be able to change it too, because again, the idea is I'm not stopping caffeine, right? I'm just monitoring it. I'm saying, because the minute I can consciously bring this awareness to it, it's like, oh, my body is feeling the caffeine, so that's why I'm thinking about all these negative things in my life. So guess what? I can just think about some positive things, or I can just do a meditation, just train my mind to focus on my breath and let the thoughts go. I have a lot of power over this. I have a lot of control over this because it's all happening in me. All right, folks. So give it a shot. But then now again, here's the thing, right? And this is not me trying to sell something, okay? But here's the thing. If you want help, I can help you. Okay, I've helped a lot of people do this. And this assignment I'm giving you is just because I don't have you here, but we can custom tailor assignments to you, practices to you, that will make this it'll work, I promise you. So but that said, you can also do it on your own. You can. I'm not going to lie to you. There are coaches out there who will make you believe that you're not able to do it on your own, but that is BS. Capital B, capital S, yo. 100%. There's no truth to that at all. You can absolutely do this on your own. But it's okay if you're not able to, right? That's not your fault, right? Maybe you're too busy. Maybe the trauma's just too much. Maybe, it's just been so many years of just, it's just you can't find it. And that's okay. That's why there's help, and I can help. So if you're interested in just having a conversation, there's a link in the description to book a call that is completely free, and I'm at your service. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Sorry to be a little bit long tonight. I think we're about 3 minutes or so long today, rather not tonight. But thank you for hanging in with me, and thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I wish you well. I'll be back in a couple of days. Take care, everybody. And I'm really glad I did this episode, even though I thought I wasn't going to. So thank you. Thank you for being there to hold me accountable.